Walk me through the day of your first ever fight. What were you feeling mentally as you were about to step into your first ever fight? Now I know you had the amateur scene, you also had the pro scene. So walk me through whichever one you want to talk about first of your debut. I'm sure both of them were very nerve wracking, and it probably resonates with you as like one of your best memories of your life as you've entered this career of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I'll do a quick rundown of the amateur debut and then the pro, just to give like a little like insight on the. It's like a little bit of a drastic difference. So when it came to the amateur debut, going in for the first time, never being in a fight before, sparring only counts for so much because the people you're working with have the best intentions for you for the most part. I would even say for my hard spars, like even then, there's still some safety security. The first initial fight, first fight I've ever had ever in my life, crazy. You actually don't remember much of it at all because the intense adrenaline. It's like it's similar to feeling to like when you're like in a extreme situation, whether it's like when you're in a car, like you're just on all cylinders. So the first initial thing is when you get your hands wrapped, especially for the first one, and this goes for every fight I've had. When you get your hands wrapped, it hits you. You have like this heart drop, think feeling. It's about to be real. So the first one, you're getting these feelings for the first time ever. And walking out there, you kind of like zone out. There's crowds and like loud noises, music bumping. Fights prior to you hear the crowd reacting to someone getting absolutely obliterated or this or that. And
Right.
that stuff you start to hear it in the back, but as you walk out, you kind of just have this tunnel vision. Like they kind of show it in movies where things kind of like blur out. It's literally that. And once the fight starts, you touch gloves, and the guy that I fought in my first ever fight ran full force at me, throwing punches. What the hell? I'm thinking, oh my God. And I actually turn around completely and face the other way because I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Obviously, I'm in a fight. So then I turn into him as this is happening, just thinking, oh yeah, I wrestled. So I took him down. And then from then on out, it's a blur. My first debut, my first ever amateur fight, I lost by decision because every time I got on top of this man, I was afraid to hit him at all. I was afraid to hit him as hard as I could and be the aggressor. And then not long after that, I realized my next fight I won in less than a minute because you just got to hit him. So I'm like, okay, I guess I just got to hit him and do more damage. Like, this stuff, but feeling it is different because you're in danger the entire time. Um, fast forward, uh, fast forward 5.5, 6 years, I make my pro debut, 2016, and the feelings are different. The feelings are a little more intense because you've trained set amount of years, so many thousands of hours of training and preparation to become professional. Now there's more money involved. Now there's rules. You can now use your elbows to hit people and knees to the face. That's a big difference. And then there's 2 more minutes. Amateur was 3 minute rounds. Pro, that extra 2 minutes, that 5 minutes. Sounds like nothing, but you can probably imagine it. It's a big deal to an athlete like in combat. So I was preparing for that in my training leading up to it, but walking out there knowing this is it, this is your pro debut, like let's go make it happen. The pressure is you want to be 1-0. You want to go in there, and the other guy was 0-0 as well. So going in there, it was a little bit of pressure, but once the fight started, I got my bearings about me. This fight is on UFC Fight Pass under my name. It'll come up. But notice if you ever do watch that fight, or if anyone that watching this watches it, the first strike I land, I still talk about this. I kick him right in the cup, and it's immediately like, oh, Akins is just getting the cobwebs out. Kicked him right in the cup, so right off the bat, I get some time, and I'm literally like in the corner, like, oh my God, I need to set my kicks up. Like I gotta. And then I like I said earlier, I had lost my amateur debut, but my pro debut I won. Um, just with the experience and the technique and speed I had over the guy. I did very minimal work in my pro debut because I lost more weight than usual because nobody would
Mhm.
fight me at the original 155 mark. So they had me cut down to 150. I made 149. I'm 6'1" on average, 775 pounds. So being 149 the day prior was a drastic change for me. So even in the fight, I felt less energy, but I was able to pull it off. That fight, I have some pretty cool pictures and like on Fight Pass, it's a pretty cool fight to watch, but you can tell like first time pro. But I went in there and made it happen. So the feelings were a little different, but the pro debut definitely a little more comfortable. The commentators just kept reminding people watching like Akins is so calm, this and that. Very different from the amateur debut, but definitely love both experiences. I remember for the rest of my life.
No, that's amazing to hear, and I bet like you took so much, like, as you said, from your from your amateur pro debut onto your professional debut, because as you mentioned in your amateur debut, you were very gun shy, you didn't have like that clinical kill, and that's the thing that like I've talked about in this episode with you is another tough reality about mixed martial arts is not necessarily for everyone, and the reason why I say that is because you have to really want to kill someone. Not literally, guys. I don't but no, you
In a
really
way,
have to. Yeah, in a way. You don't like you really have to perfect that killer will mentality because if you don't, then the sport isn't for you. You can learn it as like a self-defense mechanism, but if you want to go into that sport and you really want to, make money from it and go pro, you have to have that killer mentality because if you don't have that killer mentality, the sport isn't for you. It's the same with boxing. You have to know how to like kill someone like figuratively, like knock them out, submit them, like you said, you're at their mercy, so you really have to like put that onto them. And that's what I take from like your debut into what you went into your professional debut. You learn what you had to do through those years of training. That's another thing I think that's like great advice for the viewing audience if they're watching, they want to get into mixed martial arts. Take your time on the amateur scene, build your way up onto the pro scene. I've known a few buddies of mine that did amateur pro boxing, slowly are still working their way up. It literally takes time. It takes so much time, but I tell people seriously, no rush. Like take all the time in the world to develop. So I think both those stories are absolutely amazing. I'm gonna definitely check out your pro debut on Fight Pass, and I have the
it's a
chance to
fun one.
reach out
It's
to
a
you.
fun one.
I'm gonna definitely reach out to you. I always wanted to ask you this before we go into the last question. What was your typical training routine at that time to lead up to the fight in terms of dieting, the training? Were you studying the other fighters' skill set? How are you preparing for your debut on the amateur scene and the pro scene? Walk me through all of that.
That's very good questions. Yeah. The difference from the amateur preparation debut to pro debut was in my amateur debut, um, when you go in there for the first time against another first timer, there's nothing to watch, right? So the biggest thing was you just got to train hard and show up at the best of your ability. For that, it means like just make sure you're showing up. Coach is like, you're already showing up every day. That's why I got you a fight. Continue that and then figure out like you should know as you're training what your strengths are, right? For me at the time, it was submission grappling. I was a wrestler and I learned jujitsu. I was training hard. Striking, not so much, as crazy as that is, which is another thing that's opposite from my pro debut. I became more of a striker, but I was known as a jujitsu grappler from the gym I was at. That's something that no matter what, it was like know enough to get to the ground and get this guy and control him, and then eventually look for a finish. Pro debut, fast forward, it was be the better striker, be the more technical guy. I won that was just my jab. I won, I could say I won that pro debut with just a jab and some wrestling defense and like reactions because I knew I would be more technical and I found out I was faster right off the bat. But
Mm,
amateur, it's like go in there and I see the guy at weigh-ins the day prior in my amateur debut, and I'm like, oh, there's a big guy. Find out he was a former football player, etc. So like it was just go in there and like let's see what happens kind of thing, as opposed to pro debut. Go in there, let's establish our jab. Let's see what this guy goes in there because I knew my pro debut, the guy was durable. He'd never been finished before. But with that said, a guy can be durable, but you can still be faster, more technical, and overall, just like I had a better resume, I guess you could say too. So it showed in the fight, and I use experience, but those durable guys are known for just like giving you a hard time. Remember, I rocked him probably a few times, and the commentators were commentating on that, like Akins caught him with the right hand. I don't know if he knows. Well, I
mm.
knew. You don't want to unload the kitchen sink and then all of a sudden with that extra weight cut, have your hands down here and then gasping for air, you know. So there was very drastic difference. And like I was a different kind of fighter too, from just a ground guy that barely wants to throw a single punch to like a guy that needs to slip throw this, slip throw a leg kick kind of thing, you know. So very cool when I watch them like side by side. It's like, oh my gosh, I grew.
Major difference.
Yeah.
Major difference. And what I took from that amateur pro debut when you fought like against that former football player, I've noticed like in the MMA, we don't have to dive too much into this, but just like a quick what I've noticed, a lot of football players would adjust and switch over to the MMA world or the WWE wrestling world because I feel with football players out of all like the team sports outside of MMA, they probably have the easiest time to adjust to these combat sports is
Agree.
because physical freak of natures are coming to these sports and like they already deal with so much physicality as it is moving men, women, and children on the football field, and now they're going into these other sports and combat sports, and it's such an easy time for them to adjust. For my final question, I find it very cool you do coaching. What is it about coaching that makes you enjoy coaching others and them learning about mixed martial arts? And what would be your advice to everyone watching this episode that wants to get into mixed martial arts?
Very great questions. I That's how I know you do so many podcasts because your questions have been on point. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, a big thing I would say with coaching, I learned very quickly within months into coaching because as a fighter in my career, I'd helped there, here and there, like, oh, do this when you throw your jab. When you have to coach and it becomes something you do for hours, as the hours add up, the weeks and months add up, it makes you better because if you have to teach it to a child, an adult, someone who wants to do it for fun, someone who wants to protect, maybe they have a family now, someone that wants it for self-defense, someone that wants it to learn better about their discipline, you learn different aspects and angles of it. And then being a fighter myself and becoming a coach, you become a better fighter at the stuff you were doing all these years. So the irony with it was I became a coach from this injury that I got, but then as I'm coaching with the injury and having less from what I had in my career, I became a better fighter. I became more technical um, outside of like competition. So it was like I was getting better with less and then helping others and showing them how to do like, like the mechanics of like everything really, jujitsu, striking, how your body works, because people are different. You can't teach everyone the same. Any experienced coach will tell you that you can't tell them how you do it. You got to show them the basics and then they figure out how they're going to do it. So coaching, it's nice to give back and give people what I received. I didn't realize it led into discipline and lifestyle changes and just how my overall confidence and how I viewed myself would come out. Like it shows people what they're made of. It shows you what's possible and it gives you kind of a new outlook on everything. So I like seeing people get that. I like seeing it in all ages. And then for myself personally, I enjoyed that. Wow, this made me better at my art because this is one of those things that since it's art, you never perfect it. You never stop learning. And that's one thing, like some of the younger guys and gals that get into it, like if you find someone that says, I got it, I'm there, I got this and that, just know that's when they're going to plateau. That's when they're going to stop growing. The best in the world never stop learning. So it's good to get that reminder as a coach too. And hopefully as a competitor later this year or early next year, getting back in there. So yeah, that's how I'd say it.
Absolutely. I'm rooting for you. Hopefully, we can see you back in there soon. I think that was a great answer. And that's very inspiring for a lot of people that are watching this because you have to be a constant sponge. Even for me, from my end, with learning about sports, like I never want to stop learning about a sport because in the beginning of this episode, I was talk to you about how I was getting into MMA. I was only like one of those people that only knew about the big names, not the smaller names. And the more time I invested to learning about the sport in terms of training regimen, what people eat on with their diet lifestyle leading up to a fight, weigh-ins, who run the companies, like every little aspect. That's what made me fall in love with mixed martial arts. So you have to be a constant sponge no matter what you do in life, especially in mixed martial arts, especially in team sports. You always have to want to learn about everything new in that sport, even like the basics. Some people want to just like get into something really fast, like a cool little technique. But you have to build up to that. You have to start off the jabs, you have to start off the kicks, like literally all the basics, especially mixed martial arts, because there's so much into it. Because I mentioned earlier in the episode, if you go into a fight and you only know how to wrestle and the other guy knows everything else, you're gonna most likely lose that fight. You have to really sharpen your sword like just as much as they've sharpened theirs. So I think that was a beautiful executed answer. Ladies
Thank
and
you.
gentlemen, that'll be the end of Deep Depth episode 14. We're Brian Flyin, Akins. Thank you so much for joining Deep Depth Studios, the show. Can't wait to see you in the near future. Hopefully, we could do like a little fun UFC prediction down the line for a card. I couldn't see you back in the octagon.
Appreciate you, man. And only thing was on SureDog, I was on Google earlier and they have me as Brian Flying Akins, but just so you know, because we've been talking, Flying Brian Akins. That way it's like how it does on my t-shirt.
Oh,
But
okay,
they put it on
sweet.
SureDog, so I saw that too. I didn't know, and I looked it up. I'm like, oh, that's why. But it's right
All
before I put it in the beginning instead of
right, right. All right, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.